This podcast.
All right, guys. So obviously you can see this on the screen. It's a Google Voice phone number, so y'all can actually call in and talk to the guys. So what's up, guys? Welcome.
Nothing, man.
Nobody's seen you in person.
All right, here you go.
Feast your eyes.
Robert said not much to see, but there's some stuff
There's something to see there. So we wanted to do this live Q&A because this is generating a ton of views, a ton of comments, and you were talking about that earlier. You were looking through the comments.
Yeah, I just got from Vegas yesterday. We drove, and it's a lonely road, so I listened to the podcast back to back, and I recommend doing that because it just flows so good together the way you're doing it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But then I didn't know you could comment on YouTube videos, so I started reading the comments because you have these little like headlines on the picture. So I was like, where's he getting these from? But the comments are amazing because when Robert was telling me about this, I agree. I was kind of feeling, okay, we are picking a little scab a little bit, just a tiny bit. But at the same time, we're only doing our scabs.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know, if the story is out there, you can Google it and read it and you can know what's going on. So we are picking at our scabs, which is healthy for us. But the comments, it's amazing to get that feedback that the people are saying about it, and I don't even think I saw one negative one at all.
None.
No,
What's interesting, because we were talking about that, it's like, when are we going to get our backlash? And we did get it. And out of full respect, I'm not going to tell the whole story, right? No. But obviously, we were not going to mention one person throughout the whole thing because we want to respect everything, and obviously we're not trying to bring up old stuff, but this is a story. This is a story that's going to do that regardless.
Right.
It's just insane because this is like what we're hearing is this is the talk of the town at Port Isabel and South Padre Island. People are talking about it because it's interesting. Mm-hmm. It's them. It happened to their place.
Well, they look at that bridge every day. I just
that's
there this morning.
that's the part. I mean, I was in Vegas, and you see the casinos. You can think of every move it's been in, but I'm gone. I leave in the center. I never think about it. But the people that live in the Rio Grande Valley that cross that bridge, how do you not think about? I mean, even that portion, you could tell the color difference between the rest of the bridge.
Yeah, the new portion.
Yeah, the new portion that they put the color is totally different from the rest of the bridge. So it's the first thing that pops in your head.
Yeah,
whether you're a part of it or not.
Every time you're going over it, you think, man, this is the part that fell. This is the.
And you were there just last night.
Just last night, I went over there to have dinner and spend some time with my brother-in-law and his family, and we got to drive over that bridge again, and it's still the question still comes to mind, and especially now since it's so fresh. Mm-hmm. We've been podcasting about it. We've been talking to different people about it. So I found myself driving over there and pointing out to my daughter Sochi, oh, look, this is where, Pastor Hyde came and found us right here on this side. And oh, look over there, that's where our boat was. And this, and so it's still very, very present. It's a memory. It's an experience. It's surreal.
So if you've been following us and you've been watching everything and you have comments or you want to call in, we have an 956-320-0261 number that you can call. It's Google Voice. We'll take your call. Don't prank phone call us. Right?
I'll take those calls. It
might be good. It might get fun.
All right, we'll get real funny here real quick. What's it called when they roast you? Or what
roast you?
Yeah.
Well, you were talking about that the lights were off yesterday.
Yeah, from the Sapphire where we were staying, they have balconies that face Port Isabel, and the first portion of the bridge leaving South Padre Island, all of the lights were on, for maybe about 16, 20 lights deep. But then all of a sudden it just cuts out, and then it was eerie because you could still see the cars kind of going over, and all you saw were the tail lights, fading into the mist. So yeah, who knows, man? Maybe the lights still suffer from laws of electricity here and there.
Do you still cross the bridge?
I haven't been to the island in a while. I live in San Antonio now, so my beach is Corpus. Actually, we're going to the Padre Island in 2 weeks. Actually, might be my first trip in a while, but it's probably been about 2 years since I've been there. And I was thinking about this the other day. Somehow we blocked out what had happened because I remember fishing down there again recently. Well, not recently, but within the last 20 years. And we were just jumping off of the pillars for fun.
Yeah, for fun.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we were there with his brother, and I don't think we even mentioned what had happened,
Yeah.
what occurred, or anything. And we were at the spot that this happened. And I want to say that I don't think not one of us ever mentioned
Never
it.
brought it up.
Yeah,
It's
never brought
common
it up.
knowledge amongst us.
Yeah, it's like, and it's great because it's a bond that we have. I haven't spoken to Tony in quite a while, and lost contact with my brother as well. But it's still a bond that we have. I'll always respect them for being a part of that, band of brothers or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But it's a great thing. I know we did good then, but when you kind of hear the feedback from strangers, because we never got any of that.
No.
Yeah, we never got any of that. But then again, there was no Facebook, there was no podcast, there was none of this fancy stuff. It was whatever you could read in an article. But it's a great feeling, and to share that with the kids, man, that's awesome. That's an awesome.
Yeah. So you have good energy about what we're doing here.
Absolutely, I think it's. Robert mentioned. I mentioned it's extremely therapeutic. It really, really is, and it's I get to hang my cape up now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now it's like, man, you did something 20 years ago. I was talking about you guys older. I feel the age. I feel the age coming on me. And I'm 43 years old. I feel it.
Yeah.
But I did something when I was young that was pretty cool. And now I'm getting to feed that with my boys, with my daughter, and it's awesome. It's an awesome feeling, and it's even better because I've seen the comments from people that were affected by this directly, people who lost loved ones, and getting that positivity on something so negative is just amazing. It's an amazing feeling. I called them up. I was excited. I said, hey, did you read that comment? Because that's the one we're waiting for. What are they going to think? Because like I mentioned earlier, it's our scabs we're picking. We don't want to pick at anyone else's. Right. They just happen to be.
The truth of the matter is that we don't really know. I don't know what those families suffered after that.
Yeah, we don't. Absolutely not.
It was never really discussed. So. Again, to hear Gaspar's story and the suffering that took place and how he was brought out of the vehicle and stuff, that's to me, it's information that was denied from me for 20 years. So to hear it, it's awesome.
And I think you said it best, that this is the most detailed account of what happened on the water.
Definitely.
It's crazy, man. Like I never thought that. Well, let me tell you this, because how do you feel when people say they didn't even hear about you guys?
I've heard that quite a bit from people that have known me for years, and then this podcast is like, hey, I didn't even know you were even a part of that.
Same here, man. I have members of the club here that they're like, really, that was you? And I was like, yeah, dude. So it's I think that the magnitude of the accident overpowers what followed. Mm-hmm. The bridge collapsed. Several people passed away, and there were 3 survivors. And I think those are the broad strokes of the story. And since there's very little detailed offered to anybody who's hearing the story from somebody who's given it to them secondarily, that's really all they can give them, And I think that's why the story and our story and the things that happened that night kind of fell through the cracks.
What's interesting about that is this story goes deep. Like, it's not even, you guys are like a tip of the iceberg.
Sure.
It's crazy, man. Like, it's involving the state of Texas. It's involving Cameron County.
Yep.
And all of that somehow just got buried.
Oh, yeah.
It's insane.
Thrown under the rug. I mean, for lack of a better word, it's been hidden.
Yeah.
It really has been hidden, because I'm sure you're having trouble finding stuff that we know that's out there.
Yeah, had it not been for Celeste and her efforts, I think we'd still be kind of shuffling in the dark when it comes to, what we were lacking.
Yeah, huge shout out to Celeste. She helps us. She's like a ninja, dude. She can look through all the documents and say, hey, you should look at this. So it's pretty cool. Like, regular people that are commented on this stuff are helping us. And that's what we're trying to do, is like, if you know anything, share it with us, because we want to get the truth out. We want to get the right information from the right people. Next week, we got a couple of captains that are coming on that were on the boat that night. So it's going to be interesting to see what transpires from this. And I'm pretty excited. But we got our first question there.
Oh, cool.
So it's saying, who were the people who took their lives as a result? Was it the lawyers? I know there's a bunch of hearsay of who it was, but do you all know anything about?
I know for sure that our attorney, Frank Enriquez, took his life, but I don't believe it had anything to do with with this particular story. I think that was something that he was dealing with.
Completely different.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was probably about 2 years ago or so that he took his own life in San Antonio. He jumped off a building.
Wow.
Yeah, and the other attorney was Ray Marchand, which I had mentioned earlier. He was the lead attorney.
He was the lead attorney.
They all got together, and I think he was a maritime lawyer. That was like his background, his specialty.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's why they kind of like went with him.
Let him take the reins.
Yeah, and so he jumped off the highest point of the bridge.
So I guess that would be two.
There's two attorneys.
The
And I mean, and not to pick at another scab or anything, but I think several months later, his daughter ended up taking her own life.
Wow.
Yeah, and in their Rancho Viejo home.
Oh my God.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think we had also heard that the captain of the barge took his life, but we can't find anything. Like I tried looking, and
it's definitely not. It definitely happened after the case was settled, because there's nothing referencing his suicide in the court documents. But from what I understand, it was
from what we were told. Yeah, but we were told. Yeah,
he had taken his own life as well.
wow. Yeah, this story just has so much depth. It's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy because so many people were affected. I think I went to maybe like get a little bit closer to
Sure, sorry.
I think I went to like the 12th or the 13th anniversary with a friend of mine that invited me out there because he owned property on Padre Island and was from there. And he's like, hey, they gave me tickets because it was like kind of this little exclusive thing. And I went out there and no mention of us, which I mean, I didn't expect. I went incognito. I didn't want to even speak.
Yeah, it wasn't about
no mention of the survivors. They did mention the people that lost their life, but there was this whole backstory of how the community had to pull together because their lifeline was cut off. They weren't getting groceries over there. They had no water for quite some time.
I remember, was it Mayor Siganowitz, or I forget.
Siganowitz.
I can't pronounce it.
I think it was Ed Siganowitz.
We were, we drove over the bridge that night to dock the boat and get it into the water over by the RV park. So when the bridge was out, my trailer and my truck were stranded, on the island. When we went to go pick them up, the mayor had appointed like a liaison to us. So we called her up and told her, I need to get my truck off the island and my trailer. And there was literally a line from like where the Sea Ranch is, almost there. That's where the ferry was or whatever, in that area, all the way clear to access, like beach access 6 of cars. The tourist people who were trying to get off, people who worked at the island who were trying to get off. And there wasn't nearly enough ferries to accommodate them quickly. And we were literally like being sent to the back of the line. And the mayor called me up and said, Robert, we're sending an escort for you. Wow. And I thought it was the coolest thing.
It was actually the first. He was the first vehicle on the ferry.
Yeah, and off the ferry.
Private vehicle, because I'm sure they tested it. It was actually in the newspaper. I have a clip out of that.
Get out of here.
Yeah, your truck's there and everything. And first ferry over.
First
they did
ferry
the story
over,
about it.
Wow.
And that's cool because the story doesn't mention us, which is great, But it's cool to see that, here's a little bit of history. And my mom was awesome, man. My mom kept every newspaper clipping, original clippings.
Wow.
Of the time. And even if you go back and read the clippings, it was wrong, man. It was wrong.
Yeah, the information was so...
Local papers, national papers, they had the story wrong.
That's crazy because, I mean, you would assume that these newspapers and all these articles, everything would get the truth.
Yeah. Fact check, but I guess fake news.
Fake news.
It was back then.
They're letting us know that we're having some audio issues. We're trying to fix that, but let's carry on the conversation because we also are recording this, so we'll be able to upload a little bit later.
Oh, cool.
But take us back to that night because I'm interested in what happened. Well, obviously with a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
But it's just there's so many things that were interesting and peculiar about that night. Like when Bridget went back into the water to get her purse. That was such a bizarre.
Yeah. And if you give me some paper, I'll draw you the purse. That's how.
Do you remember it? It was just like this little
tiny
black,
little bag.
Yeah, like a little.
With it, and you know what? It had this really long string.
Yeah.
Like
it was like a crossover or something.
Crossover. It probably went down to her knees or something. I don't know.
Wow.
And the purse or its content, I guess, was of super great importance because every time she would realize that she didn't have it, she would jump back into the water to go get it.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had to kind of like relive the pulling her back into the boat, but she was very adamant about getting her purse, and she did.
Yeah,
she did.
You know, it was amazing. I think she was in a Chevy pickup truck, extended cab or full cab, whatever. Her entire engine was just taken out of the vehicle.
Oh wow.
That's how hard her impact was, and she had no injuries.
None.
That's amazing. That's pretty amazing.
That is crazy.
And then I remember her saying that she was able to roll down her windows.
Yeah.
Because she had the old school. A lot of people don't know what this means, but this
Yeah.
window.
Yeah. Nowadays it's this.
Yeah.
And back then it was this. So yeah, and I think Tony mentioned. I don't have any recollection of it, but I think Tony said that her father had.
Yeah, her father had told her, if you're going to buy
ever
a truck, if you're going to buy this truck, buy a big truck. So if you're in an accident, you have a better chance. And then you always want to get manual windows in case you ever got to get out of your truck.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
that's pretty crazy.
Wow. Let me ask you this. JP said something that was very interesting to me. 9/11, right, is New York's 9/11. This is equivalent to that for the island. Do you all agree? Like it was that
Minus
such a
the terrorist
magnitude.
attack, yes. I think it was as impactful.
If that hadn't happened, if 9/11 had not happened, I really feel that this would have been just a huge story because it was a major bridge. I think it's like the second largest bridge in Texas, or maybe.
I don't know the facts to it, but I do know that it was a huge deal here, and it did make national news. I think I had my grandmother, Kimpa Descanse, back then, and my aunts in Bakersfield, California, and Shafter and stuff like that were calling my dad and saying, you know, we saw Robert and we saw this and that. So it made national news. It just didn't matter. It didn't matter. The things that were going down here in South Texas had very, very little ripple effects throughout the nation in comparison to the Twin Towers collapsing. So yeah, minus the terrorist attacks and you know, those cowardly acts. I think it was as I think the bridge itself. I think what he's trying to say is that the bridge itself is as monumental to us as the World Trade Center building is to the New Yorkers, you know. So it was catastrophic to us. And so, yeah, I think it is our version of that.
Yeah. It's just such an in-depth thing that because we keep hearing from different people, we keep hearing from other people, we keep hearing from people that haven't talked about this in so long. And it's like it brings up the past that they want to know about. Like they never knew about this stuff. Even when you tell me like some new things that come up, it's like, oh damn.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. Like why didn't you tell me that? Yeah, no. It's like that. You know, that evening or that morning. Was scary, you know. It was something that I think people are getting a sense of now. Everybody had the information. Everybody had, you know, the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted.
Yeah.
Boat hit the bridge hit the water, cars followed. We got it. I think now that people are hearing Roland and myself and Tony and those that have participated, hearing the intensity of that night is bringing them to that night.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just giving them the details. It's giving you guys a feel of what happened. So I think that's why people are receiving it, and because it's not just information that they are attaining. It's information they're experiencing.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's a good thing.
Well, I mean, just simplify it like this. We've all seen horrific accidents.
Sure.
And we've passed by them.
Mm-hmm.
Very few have witnessed the accident, actually, the impact,
Mm-hmm.
the sound, the smells, all that. So that's what we're trying to give is those things. Because, I mean, what felt like a short time for us going back and forth. When Robert sent me my statement, I read it, and I was confused why some of the parts weren't mentioned. But, you know, I shared this with the Texas Ranger. But when I was reading the story, it just automatically started, the sounds and then the stench of gasoline.
Man, it was just a layer of gas on the water.
Horrible stench.
Wow.
And then the noise of and then one of the things that I don't think we've even mentioned, why some of because there's some witnesses from the fishing pier that said they had witnessed an explosion, and what that explosion was the first impact of the car.
Yeah.
That it sent sparks everywhere.
Because you got to remember, it was pitch black.
Yeah,
it was pitch black. So any light and any flare and any little spark was profound. It was like a lot, because light was dead in that area. There was none. So when things sparked and when things would blow up or it really caught your peripheral from anywhere.
Wow.
And then it glows off the surface of the water too.
Yeah.
So you would have this really big glow, and so we would assume that explosions or this or that. We just recently heard JP talking about how even the chatter on the emergency lines was crowded with confusion. Yeah, they were like, "We're being attacked. What's going on? Is there an accident above?" But their main concern was that they thought they were being attacked. Well, so did we.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so much like, we just witnessed an accident, let's go help.
Right.
And I think that's what people are failing to understand. It was, we're being attacked, let's go help. And there's a different feel for that.
Yeah.
There's a different mode you have to get yourself into, because what could possibly take out the bridge? In my mind, I was thinking RPGs, explosives,
all kinds of crazy.
And it was that abundant. The noise, the sounds, the screeching, the yelling. It was bad. So,
and even at that point, even when we were doing it, we were even still hesitant to get near the guys, because we saw physically them at the head of the barge with lights,
running around, lights, and they were trying to.
we were all thinking it. And he was piloting the boat, but you just felt it, like we're not going to get too close to those guys, because we don't know what the deal is.
For all we knew, they were carrying AKs, and they were about to invade South Padre. I don't know. We don't know. But we were dealing with all of the uncertainties.
Wow.
And still going in blind.
That's crazy. We got another question on here. Let me see. Do we know the results of the toxicology reports of the captain? It says, I know it was stated in previous episode. So no, we don't. I think we got a little bit of information. The only thing that I heard was that he didn't get enough sleep. There was no drinking. He didn't have anything in his system. That's what I heard from.
That's a Celeste question. We're gonna give another shout out to Celeste and ask her if she can maybe help us find the toxicology report for the captain. I'm sure that it is present and documented somewhere. It's just something that you and I haven't gotten to.
And you were also talking about the other guys on that had all the same amounts of.
Yes, all the same.
Talk about that.
So I remember that Frank. Would bring us into these conference rooms there at his office, and we would go over what was basically discussed or what was going to be discussed the day of the hearings. One of those nights after the hearings, we came back, and he was on the ride back. He was explaining to us how it was peculiar that everybody seemed to have the exact amount of alcohol in their blood system, to where it was all the same. So, like, I'm a 260-pound guy. And to be 3% above or 10% above the legal maritime law, I would have had to consume X amount. Well, everybody had consumed the exact same amount from what I remember him saying, to give them exactly 3 point something above the maritime law toxicity level.
Yeah.
So, but again, that's something that we need to reach out to Celeste again, ask her to help us out and find that.
Absolutely.
I did not remember us giving a sample. I mentioned a little while ago.
No, I don't have any recollection of us either. I remember the ambulance guys coming up to us and kind of wanting to patch us up. You were busted up. I had bruises and burns and stuff, but I don't remember.
I don't know if you mentioned it. They peeled his shorts off his skin.
Wow.
Yeah, they had melted to his skin.
They had just, the flare, the drippings from the flare. I'm driving the boat, waving the flares, and the flare drippings would fall on the fabric of my shorts and melted my shorts into my skin. So they literally had to yank it right out, man. Damn. It was horrible. It was a horrendous pain. So yeah, I don't remember them drawing blood.
Blood was a blood sample?
I think. Well,
I guess we were in a bit of shock.
Yeah, because we saw some of the
Yeah.
toxicology reports, and they're detailed.
And it has our name on it?
I'm sure. Yeah, yeah. So
I don't remember.
Well, you know, that's the beauty about it, though, because I'll be honest with you, there was no alcohol.
yeah.
None.
You know, none of us had any kind of habits or anything. That's awesome that's even out there. I mean, I guess we were in a bit of shock because I really do not remember that.
I don't remember either.
That's crazy. We got another one from Mom Camargo. Did you all, or do you all still have post-traumatic stress? What do you deal with?
I'm gonna say yes, but you kind of deal with it better now. I'm much more mature. Well, I try to think I am. It's like I had to mention earlier. I'm super glad that we did not share our story a year after this had happened, because we would have been just angry young men.
Yeah, there was too much remorse. There was too much residual emotions over everything. So yeah, I think I do. I think I can't pump gas without. You got to remember, when Roland and Leroy would pop up back out of the water, they were drenched in gasoline.
Wow.
All right, so they're moving people around. Thank God, because I don't think it had occurred to us when we were using the flares. We were on our way to the site. We burned through a few of them by the time we got there.
Yeah.
Had we sparked one after they had jumped in to start pulling people out of the water and into the boat, we would have caught fire, man, because there was literally gasoline everywhere. High bridges still, they make me a little uncomfortable. But talking about it and giving it away to people, it's like carrying that bag of stones, and you have all these things. And when you share it with people, you give them a little bit, it lightens the load. So it helps me. I enjoy
and the positive feedback that I mentioned, that was like such a big, like, just
it's like medication.
Yeah,
almost,
it's just
right?
like this ton of bricks, because so many people say, wow, that's a pretty good story, it's pretty amazing. But then you hear complete strangers saying, wow, it's amazing you were there. God had a plan for you. And I truly believe God had a plan. It's 3 days after 9/11. You got 4 guys out there fishing in a ski boat,
Yeah. We had no business there.
Yeah, we had no business out there. And then here's the funny part. Here's the weird part. Is that when we would go night fishing, like midnight was our cutoff. We'd come back in at midnight, 1 o'clock, big deal. Get home enough, because we all had to go do something the next morning.
Yeah.
But for something just kept us in that area. Something kept us there until the time that all this went down.
Wow, that's crazy, man. All right, we got another question here. Any information on the fishermen from Pirates Landing who jumped in to help that night?
I wasn't aware there were any.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware there were.
I've kept this. This is the first time I share it with Robert. I know I might have done it. I used to be an insurance agent, and I was at this enrollment for insurance benefits at I won't mention it, but at a home health care, real popular one back then. And so I'm sitting there, and it was the anniversary. Just happened to fall on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and it was mentioned in the newspaper. I had this woman across the desk from me, bragging about how her grandson was the one that saved the people that fell off the bridge that night.
Wow.
And I couldn't correct her. I was just I heard her tell our story.
Wow.
And it was just a disgusting feeling. Her and her brag about this, and so I let her have her day. All right, that's awesome, that's amazing, that's pretty cool. But I had mentioned this when we spoke on the phone. So many people try to make a buck off of it, and we were never approached with anything near that. And which I'm glad we weren't, because we're doing this. You've been a huge help to get this out. This is free therapy, man. This is honestly what it is. Something that's been needed, because I've mentioned it before. A lot of things negative that have happened in my life, things that I've done, things that I regret, a lot of it was to the PTSD. It's a simple way. Here's my excuse. Yeah. No. I had a lot of anger.
It's a state of mind that you live in, man.
Yeah, it's something you carry on you. Some of us carry it better. There were some years. There was probably 1 or 2 years that I didn't even think about it once. Didn't even bother me at once. When when I met my now girlfriend, and I had shared this story because it's a good opener. It's a really good opener. It's funny because she goes, I went home and I Googled your ass. Now, back then, Google didn't exist when it started. Who? But it's funny because it checked out, and she loves to tell everybody, I don't know, I Googled it. I Googled it right away. Let me see this guy. But it's awesome because anything that was left in me of anger or any kind of PTSD that I had left in me, it's kind of like really flowing on me. Yeah, and then maybe it's being an older guy now, and becoming in manhood, and now that's not important. My kids' happiness, my family, that's more important now. So the PTSD isn't as bad, but there were some years that, and I'll be honest, I'm the first time that I'll let Robert know this, is that after my divorce, Robert saved my life.
Wow.
Because he took me under his wing, and he knew that I was getting out of control, and he took me with him. He said, "Hey man, let me come with me to Louisiana," because he was doing some jobs over there. And I spent a good 6 months probably. Back and forth with him, driving, helping him out and stuff like that. And it
didn't save his life. I just distracted him a little
bit.
Well, hey man, let me tell you what, it could have got ugly.
To do wonders.
Yeah, it could have got really ugly, and it's. Yeah, we did still suffer for it. Maybe just not so much now. I think the positive feedback helps because you kind of ignore maybe the sounds, the smells, and all that's not so bad because now you got people saying, "Wow, that's an amazing story. That's pretty cool what you did."
You see, back then when people would come up to us and say, "Oh man, you're a hero. You did this." It's a reflex to be humble and say, "No, I didn't." And we all try to be as modest as we can. So I think that back then we really didn't know how to feel about it, and our culture doesn't teach us how to receive compliments and praise well enough.
Yeah,
I know that my parents are proud of me. I knew that they were proud of me even when I was doing stupid stuff. When I was a kid, they were proud of what they were doing, but it's not something that we're taught well how to praise and how to give our kids and show them love and that you guys are doing good. So since we don't teach that, we don't learn how to receive it well either.
Right.
So to get compliments and to get praise in such abundance back then, it made me uncomfortable. I didn't know how to deal with it because I was like, this is super new to me, like nobody ever, hey man, te aventaste, you did good. And when that does happen, we were like, well shit, like how do I deal with that? Well, thank you,
Yeah.
And I think we didn't believe it. We just thought, well, we were there, I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
Roland told me, no, dude, there could be kids in those cars, man. We have to go. So we went, but I didn't want to go. So I for one felt like, dude, if you knew that I've been fishing alone, I might have gone the other way. I didn't have Roland there to tell me we have to help. So yeah, now that we're older, I think that raising my own children and trying to praise them and kind of do things that differently, if you will, I think that through that I've learned to kind of receive the compliments a little bit better, and when people say, you did a good job that night and you were a hero that night, instead of it taking me to a bashful place or a place that I don't want to be, it really fills me with joy, man, because I think that we did do a good thing that night.
Yeah, and I mean, you remember they had a parade for us?
Oh yeah.
We were the Grand Marshals in the South Padre Island Parade, and we rode in a convertible in the back, and it was just this.
You completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's right.
There was this weird feeling because the entire Padre Island Boulevard was closed, and people were cheering and clapping, and it was. I mean, we were smiling and waving, but there was this weird, like, man, we don't deserve this.
Yeah, so you don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, that was the weird, we were excited to be there, don't get me wrong, but when we were going through it, it was just a weird, like, hey, this is way too much.
You know how, like, in the movies, there'll be, like a war hero, and, like, his shelf is, like, laced with all of these purple hearts and stuff, and they're, like, real trivial to them. They're just like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. Like, it's not, I think I understand that now, man, because it's not something that you brag about. It's not something that you boast about. It's just something that happened to you, and you were fortunate enough to come out of the situation favorably.
Yeah, yeah. I think y'all are absolutely right. I don't think this story would have had the magnitude it's having now if it was told any other time before this.
Yeah.
No, yeah, nah.
And there's that hand of everything has to happen the way I need it to is ever present, even 20 years later.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I'm super glad that this is something that we get to be a part of again as a healing process. You know, because
what do you think this year's anniversary is going to look like out there? If you had to,
I would like to attend, but not be any part of it whatsoever. Just so I could just kind of get the feeling of being there again with some of the family members and stuff. More importantly, having my children experience and see it. And you know, Robert said it the other day. You know, if there's something that I could do, because we do every day and night. Go to sleep. What am I going to do better for the family? Wake up. What can I do better for the family? That's all you ever think about. But at the end of the day, what can they show? You know, newspaper clippings. You know, thank God the internet exists now, because you know, Google me.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But I think for my children to experience and hear people tell their story, which is great, because when I played the podcast and they heard Gaspar Hinojosa's story, and I haven't heard JP's yet, but for when my boys hear it, or my daughter hears it, it's well, she's 7, but just the fact that she knows that I'm a part of this, I think that's a great way to see it from the outside in, because I've always been from the inside out.
Yeah.
So now I get to have the people that I love
appreciate what you did something. Yeah.
Not only appreciate it, but get their feedback, because no one's more honest with you than your family.
Right.
Yeah, really. There's no one.
No, you're right. We got another question here. Do you guys still talk to Bridget, and any plans of her speaking in any of these episodes? So we've tried to reach out we've tried to find her. I know I've friended, requested her husband, but when they come is when they're going to come, unfortunately.
Yeah, we've done very little to reach out. I, for one, have had no interaction or communication with any of the three survivors.
I've not.
Immediately after the court, when Frank took us into his conference room and told us about the gag orders, and, you know, slid us all our portions of what was ultimately paid out. Basically, he told us that we really shouldn't be, you know, bothering anybody or trying to cultivate any kind of long-term relationships with these people, that they had some healing to do, and so did we. So we did that. You know, we were still very close, the 4 of us, and we had each other to kind of lean on, and so we did that. It's been, for me, at least 20 years since I've spoken to them, you know, to any of them.
Yeah, I think I ran into Gustavo like on the 5th year or the 3rd year we went out there, because it was really something huge the few years after that, but then it just kind of just died away. Yeah. We weren't invited. Well, we probably were invited, but Frank, you know, would just say, you don't need to go to that.
You got to remember, man, I only barely got Facebook like 2 years ago. So even if they were looking for me, they weren't going to find me. So yeah, no, I think it'll be a little bit easier.
I was Facebook friends with Renee, and the interesting thing is that we haven't been friends for about maybe 8-9 years now. But when we were friends, we never even
talked about it.
We never talked about it. I don't even think I ever said happy birthday to him or back and forth. But we just kind of knew we were floating out there in cyberspace. You know, that you were there, I was there. But no, I've not spoken to any of them.
Roland, let me ask you this: now that you're here, the woman in the water, the white blouse. This is part of the story where Robert said it perfectly. Is like either people are like, that's bullshit, and they tune it off, or they're like, wow. What do you remember about that?
It's spot on. I mean, my statement. You got my statement. It's spot on. In my statement where we mentioned this woman, no other body was found.
They extended the search for body recoveries for 2 days, solely based off of the statements that we gave.
What do you remember seeing that night, though?
I remember her. I mean, even someone saying it. Let's get her, but she's okay, because it looked like she was in shallow water, you know. And anyone who's been on the bay knows there's portions that you could get knee deep in some areas. So when we did see her, it was like, okay. And Robert's you're perfect. Yeah, she was like just like, hey, you know, real calm, like, you know, wasn't no frantic or even, I don't even remember hearing a voice, but I do remember just this. You know, all right, we'll get to you. And then with the waves and the light and back, I mean, we only had one spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
cheap spotlight Robert got. Sorry.
God damn it.
You can only see, when Robert said best, I love it when you said, get a dark room, turn on the light, and try to find an ant. That's how it was.
That's what it was like.
And then imagine tires, fenders, paper, trash.
Clothing, people had clothing in the back of their car.
This is the way it comes down to. We would never have found an ant if we didn't focus on that woman.
Yeah.
Wow.
Honestly. And even when we found an ant, we thought we were recovering a body.
Yeah.
And here's the amazing part. Here's the most amazing part that we haven't even mentioned. Renee was face down in the water. How did he not have drowned? You know what I mean? That's just amazing. Because when we grabbed him,
floating face down.
When we put our arms underneath him to pull him up, it was dead weight, and then that's just when he gasped for air. Like,
wow.
And his gash in his head, it wasn't torn flesh out. It was torn. It popped in.
Yeah. Wow.
So he when his head twisted over, just this massive bowl of water just like dripped out.
Yeah.
So I mean, if it wasn't for seeing that woman and going her direction,
he'd have been lost in the darkness of the water.
Not lost in the darkness, but he would eventually have drowned because he was face down when we had gotten him. We thought we were recovering a body.
Wow. And
then the calmness on us. That was probably the first time I ever saw. Well, he was alive, but at the time we thought he was
such a badly hurt individual. Yeah.
That is crazy. It's there's another part where you're talking about the slashes on the shirt.
Oh,
talk about that.
Yeah, Gustavo got into the boat, and his shirt and his pants had what looked like perfect 2-inch slashes in it.
Yeah.
I mean, cut with a razor or nice scissors, just completely down.
It was very weird. It looked like it was deliberately, proportionately shredded. Shirt, pants. Mind you, there's no blood on him from cuts or at first you think, well, maybe the windshield glass or maybe, but no, it is as if someone or something.
Yeah, Tony said it looked like Freddy Krueger, like scratched them straight.
So weird. To this day,
I want to say in one of the articles, man, I really wish I would have brought it, but I'll send them to you. He mentions that he felt like someone had pulled him from his car.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, it's pretty crazy. But back to the woman, and I get it. I 100% get it. You know, my father passed 2 years ago, and I never see him. Okay, I don't see him, but his presence is forever. It comes into me in the form of a honeybee. Because he loved bees because they would pollinate his citrus trees. His citrus, my dad was a huge citrus tree guy. A single bee in the weirdest places, man. The weirdest places all over the country. Because will appear, and whenever I'm stressing, just and there's sometimes I'll be in the truck because that was the truck we were in all the time. I'll look over and I just feel his presence ever so deep, and this huge thing that happened on this trip. We were at the Bellagio to see the fountain show. It was a kid trip, so I had to watch all this stuff. We're at the Bellagio, and the fountains are going off, and my daughter was watching it, and we're all laughing, having a good time. And I went over to see what was going on with her, and I kind of like, hey, what's going on? What's happening? Because I didn't want her to fall over. And all the grandkids called my father Paya. She goes, I wish Baya was here. And she had this emotion in her, just this intense emotion crying. And I got super choked up and I started to cry and I told her, he is here because that's how that you feel him. That's what you're feeling. Because I felt that. I have felt that in me. That makes me even a stronger believer that something happens in the afterlife. Something happens when we're gone. We are protected. And that night, Rene was protected from his mom. I guarantee.
Yeah,
there's no other explanation. No explanation on why we were headed that way. And a massive amount of debris, and it's the bay, but I call it the ocean, man, because it's just like
you might as well be.
Yeah, it might as well be because you're in it in a little 17-foot boat. I mean, that's the equivalent of this. It's the equivalent of this ring on this desk. That's how mass of an area we had, and we it's not luck.
Yeah, way.
That's not luck. Luck is us getting out of there with just the injuries that we had, and we survived it. That other portion didn't fall on us when we were down there
because we were right below it. Like there was pieces of rubble and pieces of road and concrete still dripping on us while this was going on.
We get another question here. So it says, you talked about taking divers on your boats to look for survivors. Was that after you encountered the Coast Guard? Or,
Yes.
yeah?
Yes,
Yeah.
the Coast Guard got there with, again, with their like really smug and nonchalant attitude. You know, I mean, it was their version of demonstrating helplessness. They knew they couldn't do anything, so they were just probably as frustrated as we were. But the problem was that these boats were too large to get near the opening, and the frogmen, the scuba divers, were from, I believe, the firehouse. The local fire chief was one of the people who had just gone into the water in the accident. They were eager to go get their chief, so they saw us arguing with some of these other boats that had been commandeered by troopers and Homeland Security and stuff like that, and saw that we were kind of ignoring them, you know, and just going around them and getting to places and stuff. And one of them asked us, "Will you take us there?"
Yeah, I remember that clearly. Oh, yeah.
That? Dude, he was like, "Will you get us there?"
With the frustration, man.
Oh,
Like,
man, he was just livid that he wanted to be in the water, and they wouldn't get him there. And he just threw his tanks and stuff and jumped onto my boat, and we took him. It was after, to answer the question. Yeah.
We got another one here. Did you ever did you ever hear from Chris again, the Coast Guard?
No, but that'd be a cool cat to find.
God, yeah.
Because, you know, we're 20. Well, by the way, I was the oldest guy on the boat.
Oh, you're older than Tony?
Seniority, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my bad. I didn't know.
No, but he is a kid, man. But you know, he's in the Coast Guard. That's fine. He's trained to this. But the balls on this kid, man.
He went against his captain and stuff.
Flat out. Hey, I'm coming with you guys.
Them,
jumped right off his rig into ours, and was, you know.
Yeah, telling us what to do, getting everybody comfortable and situated.
That'd be a cool cat to find, man.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
yeah.
It's got to be out there.
Chris, get out there. If anybody knows of Chris, send them our way.
It's in my statement. I said Chris. I don't know. I said Chris. I don't know his last name.
Yeah.
I knew his name was Chris.
Yeah.
Young guy. And I want to say he was from Port Isabel. He's not like some guy stationed somewhere else somewhere else that came down to be stationed here. I think he was originally from Port Isabel.
He brought structure to the boat, man.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was nothing but chaos, blood, and just people frantic on the boat, including ourselves. And he snapped everybody in check. Like, hey, guys,
Wow.
we got to get this and this done.
You know, that's the amazing part, that even us sharing the story now, no one seems to have any other questions about why the Coast Guard didn't do what they should have done. You know what I mean?
Or what is the protocol for that? Like, did they have
Well,
one?
this is what I'm thinking. Those waters are probably just state and local water, state and county waters. So here's this federal entity that you think would I mean,
Intervene.
this is what I was expecting, man. I was expecting them to roll up in wetsuits and be in the water, rolling up in the little boats,
little rubber.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
boats.
that's exactly. So seeing them was just a huge relief, man. Like, we're done with
house of a
this. Like,
vessel.
we've done what we had to do. You know, being told, the first thing coming out that I remember being told, hey, any of you guys have a cigarette lighter?
I need a lighter. You guys got a lighter? I need a cigarette.
That's crazy.
I'm looking at him and I'm like, somebody get this son of a bitch a lighter, man, because he don't even care about the people who are hurt on the boat.
Jeez.
Like
Yeah.
if there were just fish that we had just recently caught, just complete disregard.
Wow. People are letting us know that we're having some lagging issues, so we are going to re-upload this later with the high quality and everything. So I'm assuming it's just, technology. Well.
Works when it works.
Yeah, it works when it works. But let's go back to that night, because there was some other interesting things that we heard after that, like from the divers. I think you were telling me that when they would go in, talk about that.
Days after the accident happened, they were still trying to recover not only bodies, but the vehicles themselves and the rubble and everything. They had to get out of the way, because at this point, remember that the island is still hemorrhaging money. They're losing it day by day.
Yeah.
So the main priority was to recover what they could recover, move what they needed to move, and rebuild. So they started sending salvage experts down there to tie up the cars and to bring everything to the surface. So speaking to, not directly to one of them, but to a partner. So these are scuba guys who would go underwater, and they're tying everything up. And when they would decide to pull the cord to start bringing themselves up to the surface, they would get the sensation of hands or somebody grabbing them, pulling them, dragging them back down, like as if somebody was trying to, catch a ride to the surface with them on their shoulders.
Wow.
And that they would come up, and in panic and frantic, like something grabbed me, or somebody grabbed me, or somebody who's down there, who else was down there with me. And so they were, tossing stories about that back and forth. And it's oddly enough, you both sent me a video that was uploaded, I think a night before we recorded our first podcast about this, and it's somebody on a pier, and there's a lady screaming in the background, So I don't believe that there are. I guess you can't believe that there are good entities out there, saving their sons and doing good things without believing that there could be some bad things out there. But the truth of the matter is that after the accident, after the bridge was already reconstructed, we would go out there and fish under it and kind of go under the spot and say, yeah, man, and revisit it. We never had any. Yeah, I never had any incidents or scary moments that would compare to the night of.
Let me ask you this: why did it take the better part of 3 days for them to pull out those vehicles?
Well, you got to remember that the island's not set up for barges to be working on it. When a bridge, I've kind of checked on this. When a simple pier is built in a home, small little pier, the companies have to come up from up north with these barges and stuff to pile in the pilings on it. So it took that many days to get the equipment on a crane on the equipment to pull the cars up. One of the first mediations we went to, they were just showing photos of the cars being pulled out, and it was awful to see that. I mean, these cars
they're mangled.
Yeah, and you would think hitting water, pretty hard surface, but the amount of Bridget's entire engine completely
was ejected
out of her
from
car, and she had no injuries. I mean, that's just amazing. But that's what I'm assuming it took so long, because even the ferries took quite some time. I think they got them from Port Aransas or Port Arthur, some area.
By the time the ferries got there and the construction crews assembled, days had gone by. They hadn't even recovered the bodies. So in the court, when they were showing bodies that were recovered, most of the bodies there was just no pigment.
Yeah, white. Just
white. And they were all missing their lips and their eyelids, their eyeballs, their ears, because of the fish and the crab down there were eating at those bodies. So a lot of people don't understand that we had to sit through these mediations where these pictures came out, and so talk about continued trauma, and prolonged
after the fact.
Yeah, after the fact, we walked into that courthouse not thinking anything, not expecting to see anything like that. And they would, wheel out these big, TVs and stuff. And it was just a slideshow of the wreckage, of the trauma to the bridge, of the ferries. And everybody was in line, Southwestern Bell.
Yeah, that's interesting about that, because Celeste showed me the papers that everybody had their hand in it.
Oh yeah, the hotels,
mom and pop places from the island, Port Isabel the same. Just about every single entity and person who lost a job because they couldn't get to and from their jobs that was on the island. Everybody was suing this company. So,
are you surprised that there were that many lawyers involved in this?
I was really surprised how many lawyers were defending the barge company and the barges, because they were this is straight out of a movie, man.
Yeah.
Sharp $5,000 suit guys,
and in herds, 8, 9, 10 of them at a time would walk in, and these are all very
cold guys, man, real cold. I met some cold people in my life, but these guys were cold, super cold to everything. I mean, what was the reason for showing us that slideshow? That was ridiculous. If anything, it just damages you guys more. Look at the shit you guys caused.
Yeah.
But these guys were cold, and I mentioned it. The guy put his boots on a federal desk, man. That's unheard of. And then and I remember back to the private jet. I didn't get to finish the rest of my comment when I said that. The reason I knew they had flown down on a private jet, these at first it was about maybe 8 to 10 lawyers, and they grew, is he said, I remember We were young guys, okay.
We
We
looked like
walked in with
legal
our attorney. We're kind of a little dressed up with her. So I guarantee you, they thought that we were assistants, because we even carried some of Frank's shit sometimes. Anyways,
and stuff.
so I heard him, from here to that wall, him clearly saying, "They're not gonna take the offer. Feel the jet. Let's get out of here."
Yeah, let's get out. Call the pilot.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
Not to rent the room. They're not going to take the offer. Let's get out. I remember.
And I guess that's that's the job they are could be cold. That's what they got to do. But you gotta have some compassion for these people.
It just left an animosity on our side towards them.
Yeah, because this was the whole thing. Leaving it, and we're in our 20s, but we're kids in mind. We're new to this thing, and telling Frank, "Hey man, Frank, these cold motherfuckers." And he's like, "That's the way it is.
That's the way it
is. That's how it's gonna get. It's gonna even get uglier."
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, and just the fact that here we are being taken to the Portersville Police Department to give our witness testimony. And they took a toxicology test on us. What the hell was that?
That was an interrogation, man. There was no. They didn't take us into custody.
Well, at first when they were like, "Hey, come here, come tell us this beautiful story."
Yeah, no. As soon as they got us in there, it was a different tone.
Remember them closing the storm shutters too? That was the scariest shit to hear, because that's when you knew something was going down. Because not only did they close the door behind them, they had these garage doors. I guess because they're
around the windows and stuff.
When they closed that, and you can't see sunlight, you can't see what's going on. That's when it was getting really intimidating.
Wait a minute, man. Like, we're not trying to leave, you can leave that shit open, but no, it was a serious thing, again, nobody knew what was happening. Nobody knew what was happening.
It's crazy, man. How do you feel when I think we touched on this earlier, but specifically you, how do you feel when people tell you that you're a hero?
Really, I'm really not a hero, man. We're really not. We just did the right thing. If anyone was to not do what we did, that's the epitome of a coward. That really is, because you have to at least show up and do what you can do. I don't know what took over us. I'm telling you, we're not very godly guys out there. I guarantee it. Some of our conversations are even questionable sometimes. I go home, shit, I can't even remember we're talking about that. But when it was going down, and the calmness, and even this forecasting, what was happening, it's amazing. But to be a hero, man, we just did the right thing, and we got shit. I don't know if you guys even talked about this or mentioned it. We got awards from almost every county. We got the flags from flag that flew over the Capitol. We each got one. We got the key to the city, to South Padre Island. We got all these mentions. The DPS award for citizenship. I mean, just crazy stuff. Just massive amount of awards. I don't even got one of them. Even receiving the first one was kind of cool, but then after that,
it's just awkward.
It was so ugly to see these entities just wanting to get a piece of the story, wanting to get their name. Like, oh, here, we're going to honor the fishermen. We're going to honor them. Because I tell you that the minute they got our award, it was like, all right, guys, you leave. Bye.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we met Rick Perry at the convention, and I remember that. You don't remember this or not. Thank God he's not a governor no more. We got shooed away from him because we were just, talking, being ourselves. And they didn't want us there. But then they found out who we were. They had to bring us back into the
wow. Now you want to talk to us.
Yeah, because we would get our things, and that was it. They would just dismiss us, which is fine, I guess. It's politics, man.
Yeah.
We, being that young and seeing the true politics of how life works behind the scenes, how the lawyers are, how the politicians are, and all these promises that they, it's true. They make promises and they just never kept them, which is fine. That's cool. But seeing that was such a powerful thing to experience.
Wow.
The reason I have none of these things is because I would read them, I would see them, and then I'd be like, you kind of have this. Right. You kind of have this. I could have done more if I had the help. We could have done more if they had taken the victims off our boat right then and there. We were already prepared to do plan B.
We had been dealing with it for an hour and a half already. Like, what was an odd to them, we had already gone through that phase. We were already in action mode.
Yeah. And here's another part of that, man. That second part of the bridge not falling on us. I mean, that's there was some divine intervention there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because we were right in it,
man. I remember we could literally look up and just see rubble and the tear in the bridge, and it looked so surreal, man.
Jeez.
Just to look up from under the bridge and see the stars. Wow, it was crazy.
Go ahead.
We
got another question here. Did you guys ever run into any type of resentment from anyone involved in the situation? The gentleman in the middle needs to speak louder. Oh,
That's me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm glad they called you a
I
gentleman.
know, right? They must not know much about me.
I think this is the great thing about what this podcast is about, because this is real.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
this is real. You guys are regular fucking people.
Oh,
that
man,
living regular
yeah.
lives.
No, I'm telling you, man. I was telling you before we started. I'll say we get this. If we had this podcast when we were in our 20s,
Oh my God, we'd be in a
we'd
different
be
boat.
radio DJ somewhere in LA.
Yeah.
Welcome to the mix, not on Paul. I mean, yeah, no, we're just regular guys, and I think that was the part that why we were hushed, why we were in silence, because they knew that you got some guys that have some character, some guys that got some life in them. We'll run with this, we'll run with this. And I use the word expose very lightly here, but the Coast Guard not doing what they should have done is the story. It's the big thing that's just even to right now.
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of incompetence, man. Like,
and
real
then
talk.
even us leaving, because we left the site to go leave them at the ambulance on the portable site after the back and forth. We're back in it, right? We get back in it, and then to come to find out, okay, now you need us to take you to the site.
Yeah.
What have you guys been doing for the last 30 minutes, an hour?
While we were delivering injured people to the ambulances. Literally, it was like if they waited for us to get back to get the guys on the scuba team people on our boat to take them over there. Like, literally weren't doing anything but looking at the gap.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty scary, because it goes back to what I said. Don't depend on anyone to come help you, because that's what happened that night.
Yeah, no, you can't.
People who were well equipped, people who were trained, people who had the ability to do more than we didn't do it. And I think that's where the anger comes in for me, because you hear stories of people going 5-10 minutes without oxygen in their lungs and being able to be revived and all that. How many people could have been saved if more people like Chris
Simply Gaspar, who was on that pillar for so long, then sent to Harlingen instead of Brownsville Hospital. Like, I mean, just there was a tremendous amount of incompetence, and
There's just so much going on.
There's so much uncertainty. Nobody knows, nobody knew, and so yeah. And in regards to the question, if has anybody given us any, any controversy or any backlash over this? Not to me yet.
I'd welcome it, because what's your defense of using that against me? Like, why do you think that I have no right to share this story? The story's ours.
Yeah, definitely.
I will be forever grateful for what we did. If anyone wants to be ungrateful for any part of it, well, that's on you to live with, man.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that that if there is some resentment because we're telling our story now, and emotions and feelings and memories are bubbling up to the surface, then I'll humbly apologize for that. But those aren't the intent. It's not. We're not doing this and discussing it to hurt anybody's feelings or to inflict any kind of pain. Quite the contrary. It's Roland's mentioned it, Tony's mentioned it, I'm saying it now. It's therapeutic for us, It's something that we get to give away, that we've been carrying. He's known my story and I've known his. We know what we have to deal with, and when we're out and pumping gas into our car or driving up a bridge and some tail lights light up in front of me, I know that he is taken back there immediately. This is letting you guys know, the viewers, that that this is forever for us. It's not going to go away, And now that we can give it to people, if it's received negatively, well then I sincerely apologize.
There was a certain thing that you had mentioned about getting benches on for the memorial that were promised to y'all that y'all never got.
Yeah, no, we didn't.
So somebody sent us $2.99 and then $4.99, so you can do that through super chats on YouTube.
Oh wow!
So somebody had commented is like, "Are y'all gonna sell merch?" Well, we kind of feeling like, well, why are we gonna sell merch? But we're figuring like, if y'all give us super chats, if y'all donate to the show, we will actually buy the benches and donate them to
South Padre Island.
To South Padre Island for y'all, because y'all never got that.
Yeah, I
think I want everybody to play a little role in this, because together we're experiencing this.
I like it. I like where that's headed, man. Yeah, if you all want and think we should put 4 benches out there.
Hey, just give me the permit. I'll go build the shit.
Yeah, he'll get it done.
I'll get it done. Just give me a permit. Hey, give me a couple of guys from downtown and the Sunday, and I'll get it done.
Good.
Yeah, I'll get it done.
So with that being said, guys, I don't know if y'all want to share anything else maybe that has popped into your head since the first podcast started that you might remember. Or any feedback that y'all have gotten from people.
It's all been positive.
Yeah,
and I really don't know how I would even handle any negativity, but it's like I said, I'll be forever grateful for what we did. And if someone seriously is ungrateful for what we did, including sharing the story, because we're not sharing anyone's story, we're sharing our story.
Yeah, what happened on our boat?
Yeah, we've never mentioned what anyone else was feeling, what anyone was thinking. We even haven't even mentioned some of the things after that night that we had found out about certain people. Unfortunately, the next story is our story because that's what led us to him.
Yeah, to him.
So I would love to hear their story. That'd be super awesome.
Yeah,
that would be super awesome. I was telling you guys. Thanks, Mom. In one of the news articles that Gustavo wrote, he mentions driving down the bridge and seeing our boat approaching the bridge with the flares and the spotlights. And he honestly was going to, okay, let me stop because these guys are probably in trouble. And then immediately after that is when
he came off the bridge.
He came off the bridge.
Wow.
So even our efforts, that was good to hear later, because even our efforts that seemed like we were so
frivolous. Yeah, it seemed like it were helpless.
It was some help because there were some people that we were able to flag down and even notice. And even that guy that did stop, he didn't even know that the bridge was out.
He was like, "Are you guys okay?"
Yeah, he was freaking out. We could hear him screaming of fear.
Yeah, when he realized that the bridge was out,
and that he almost went over.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, no, I little tidbits of information pop into my head here and there when I really focus down on what happened that night. But pretty much what the podcast we've offered thus far is pretty accurate. Everything else is, is still mine or we're not ready to share.
Yeah.
We haven't really gotten down to the meat and bones of it.
Those 911 calls would be interesting.
Oh,
yeah, we've been trying to get a hold of those.
Get those.
That'd be really interesting to hear. Not ours, but everyone's.
Yeah.
Because you had people. I remember finally speaking on the phone with my ex-wife, and she was saying, "Hey, people are saying that this was a terrorist attack. People are witnesses were saying they saw projectiles being flying."
Wow.
And that just goes to show you that people just want to be a part of it and make shit up if they wanted to. But which I'm sure affected the Coast Guard's response.
And the reaction.
That could have been their response. Hey, we're not going to get involved until we know what's going on. I mean, who knows? At the end of the day, though, you hear about this multi-million-dollar system they installed with the lights to warn people now and stuff like that.
What's interesting about that is Celeste was telling me that on the Coast Guard's documentation that they give them a bunch of suggestions that they should do.
Oh, wow.
Only like 2 of them were ever done.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
That'd be good to know what the other ones were.
Yeah. She's going to help us. She's going to be a
awesome.
guest. So.
What I would like to know is there a plan now that the Coast Guard has in place to rescue people? Do they now have, okay, we need smaller vessels. Okay, we need better lighting. What's our plan?
What was taken away from that as far as knowledge that they can use in the future should happen again?
Because in reality, if some shit goes down, flagging the next guy isn't going to make a difference to the guy that's down there already.
Yeah, none.
So what's in place to get that guy out? Shit. Put freaking ladders out there, or at least so they can make a fighting chance to get onto the
pillars.
With the tide, Let's be honest. We hadn't been there. These people would have drowned.
Oh yeah.
Because at the time, anyone else that would have arrived there would have been focused on the crash site, not the surrounding area. And even like that, when we found them, they were so far away where we thought they would be. That's how powerful the tide was.
And exhausted already.
Oh, yeah.
Exhausted. I think Bridget, in one of her comments, said that she had been swimming or floating for 10 minutes.
For 10 minutes. Yeah.
10 minutes. That's a long time. She even kicked off her shoes because she was going to try to make her way to the island side.
Wow.
And she just turned herself on her back and floated for a while because she was so tired when we found her. Had we not been out there, I think there'd have been 3 less people with us today.
I think we got to have lunch with her several days or maybe weeks after this happened, and it was kind of cool to just have a meal with someone and hear their story. You know what I mean? And that's the part that's missing.
I remember not talking at all about that night.
Oh yeah, we did it. We didn't even mention it, man. We just got to share who we were.
Yes, it was just
It was at that Pirates place.
Pirates Landing.
Yeah,
Wow.
we had dinner there, and it was just super key, real low key, and no one recognized any of us. And this is days after this had happened. That'd be cool if they were to come on, and maybe not even to share what they went through, but just to hear from how they're doing now. It's still amazing. It's been 20 years. That's a long time.
It's an open invitation to anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody.
I mean, I think obviously what we're trying to do with the podcast is to uncover as much truth as possible and piece it all together from everybody's perspective, because we are talking about this is the most detailed account of this event that's happened.
Yeah, there'll never be a more specific or accurate tale of that night. We were front and center for that tragedy from start to end.
Yeah. All right. With that being said, guys, once again, if you'd like to donate to the show, we're going to try to collect all that money and get these actual benches donated
That would be cool.
to the island, because you told me that story. It's like you went that year after hoping that it was going to be there for your kids.
It was going to be there. Yeah, I mean, look, I come from humble beginnings, man. To be able to be gone and a piece of my history be planted somewhere indefinitely forever as an act of what myself and others did, I think that's legacy type stuff for me.
Well, there you go. That's for a flower pot instead. Maybe they'll.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah,
flower pot. Take a flower pot.
Yeah, whatever. We'll see what we generate. But yeah, we're not asking for a Rocky statue out there or anything. But
that would be nice.
Yeah. I don't have the physique for it, but regardless, benches would be cool, man. Only because again, they told us, they brought us out there. I talked to my kids about, my grandkids are going to come sit on this bench and say, oh yeah, Grandpa did, and so that was the fairy tale that we were hoping the ending was going to be, and it didn't come around, and then 20 years later, here we are, and I think collectively we're in a position to just talk about it, forgive, forget, and bring closure to those who need it, to those who want it.
This is my closure.
Yeah, me too.
This is my closure. I guarantee you, because
after this, there's no need to.
If it's ever brought up again, well, yeah.
Yeah, at that point we can say, dude, I have a podcast.
Go listen to the podcast. It's out
after
there.
this, I don't have to tell the story.
And that's the beauty about it. Our statements were our little time capsule 20 years ago. You have provided, and I will forever be grateful to you. You've provided something that will never be erased, never go away, and they'll be able to see it. I mean, one day I will not be on this earth, and this may be the only video they ever have of me.
Worth watching.
There's another good video of me at Robert's wedding, by the way. But if anyone wants to see that, that's an awesome video.
Throw that one away.
It's out there. It's out there.
Beware. Don't look for it.
No, but you're absolutely right, because I believe that this story is going to be told or shared year after year after year after year, especially when it's coming back to that September 15th, the anniversary, because hearing it from you all, it's a true story.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And the beauty about it is you don't even have to spike it. All the events of the night, what had happened, it's the perfect script that was given to us by God and said, here, I need you guys to do this. I need you guys to say this, because who in the fuck says, hey, what would you do if some cars started flying off the bridge? That's crazy.
Right there in itself.
And Pastor Hyde said it best. He said, man, God was prepping you guys. He was putting you in a state of let me answer that question. For you.
Before it happens,
And even Robert, when Robert said, no, it had to be my mom, it had to be something, that kind of, I was like, hey, no, we're going to, right, Robert. But no, the way it went down, the way Robert explained it, the way Tony came in here and talked about everything. It'd be cool if you get Leroy in here, my
That'd
brother,
awesome.
it'd be awesome, because here you go, finally, number 4. Here you have 100% of the story closed. It'd be really good, because it's an amazing thing.
It's an amazing story.
It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, it was the events of that night were written long before we even got on the road, man. Like, everything happened precisely as it had to happen for those 3 people to survive. And I used to have trouble saying that, because it meant, or it implicated, that those who passed weren't picked.
Right. Yeah.
So I used to struggle with that, but I don't anymore, because now, although I'm not a person of great religion, I am a person of, I'm a God-fearing man, and I think that to question what was happening or why some were taken and some weren't is not for me. What was for me and for us that day were to take those who he wasn't ready to take. our job was for them. And I struggled with that for a while, but I don't anymore. And I think it has to do with telling this story and hearing Gaspar's son, you know, speak so wonderfully of his father, and to hear peace in his truth, in his story, when he talks about his dad and how his dad, you know, the rise and fall of his father.
Which is just a real story.
Just a real story.
And there's so many out there. That's the amazing thing, that we're just a tiny little bit of it. I would love to hear.
Everybody. Yeah.
I'm, you know, shame on me, but I could not recite to you everyone's name that was lost that night.
No, nor could I.
I really
I messed up Renee's name on our first podcast. Like,
I think it was you were just nervous.
I was, man. And so yeah, no, this is closure for me. I think that from now on, when before I had this really, really deep urge to tell the story, I feel it less and less now. And I think it's because I know it's being documented. I know I'm going to be able to just send a link to somebody and say, man, yeah, you want to hear about that night? I got a perfect story for you here. And I can give it to somebody and they can choose whether to receive it well or not. But more than anything, super therapeutic, super relieving. And I just do have a good, warm feeling about the comments that come in and the interactions that we've been having with people, complete strangers who have been moved by our story. It's very welcoming for me.
Well, with that being said, guys, thank you all for doing this.
Thanks
having
for the
it
questions.
live. Yeah, absolutely. Share the story. I think this is a story, and I've been saying this since the beginning. I think this is one of the most interesting stories that people are going to hear this year, and probably in the next few years. I mean, this is us.
Yeah.
This is our.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So,
thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys later. Bye.
The Joshua Moroles Podcast.